The government has been defeated over their controversial Brexit legislation, which would potentially see the UK break international law in a limited and specific way, according to ministers. The House of Lords voted to defeat the Internal Market Bill, which would allow the UK to set its own rules when dealing with trade regulations with Northern Ireland, if no trade agreement is reached with the EU.
There have voted content 165. Not content 433. So the not contents have it.
This would break obligations agreed under the Withdrawal Agreement between Britain and the European Union. However, this isn't the first time the House of Lords has gone against the government's wishes. The defeat in the Lords can only temporarily delay the legislation if the House of Commons continues to vote for the bill. Critics of the government say the bill would undermine trust in Britain as a diplomatic power if it is seen to break international law.
If we pass this bill with clauses 41 to 45, and in so doing accede to the government's wish to break international law, I believe it will have a detrimental effect on people's trust in the United Kingdom. And as the United Kingdom negotiates trade deals around the rest of the world, why should anybody we're negotiating with believe that we're actually going to uphold what we sign up to in that agreement? If we've said clearly that, well, if we don't like it, then after we've signed up to it, we'll change it, we'll break it.
The election of Joe Biden as US President also adds pressure on Boris Johnson to scrap the controversial parts of the bill, as the Democrat has previously made noises criticising the legislation. The government argues the provisions in the bill are aimed at protecting the integrity of the UK's internal market, meaning there should be limited to no trade barriers when trading between different parts of the United Kingdom.
But I just also, in this instance, was outraged that the fact that so many people in the Lords were basically saying they were going to stop the government. I mean, it was ironic because here we had a situation where people were saying there is a real problem that the executive are involved in a power grab and are now going to act against the parliamentary sovereignty and act against the people and act against international law. Whereas actually what this government was doing was trying to hold its promise to the British people made in a manifesto. That's what the Tories got voted in huge numbers to do. And also here was the Lords on its own power grab, basically saying that it was going to even push its own anti-democratic role far beyond that of a scrutiny body into something else. Somebody said this is a revising chamber. But we shouldn't turn it into a wrecking chamber, and that's exactly right.
Meanwhile, trade negotiations continue, with Michel Barnier this week travelling to London to continue the crunch talks. If a deal is not agreed between the two sides within the next week or so, it is said it is unlikely that any trade deal will have enough time to be ratified by the European Parliament. However, the two sides are still at loggerheads over fishing rights and state aid rules, which have been the two consistent arguing points throughout the talks.
The main rule is